Hello everybody, welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we're doing a box office preview for this upcoming weekend, which is going to see a couple of new releases with some pretty sizable budgets struggle quite a bit at the box office. The third installment of the Now You See Me franchise. Crazy that movie actually spun off an entire franchise. The film itself, obviously, the original film was entertaining enough. Not enough for me to actually want to go see a second film. The second film really didn't do as well as the first, and somehow they've also felt that the limited success of the second film was somehow justifiable for a third. Well, now it looks like they're going to figure out for themselves, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that because they sunk pretty sizable amount of money into a movie of its kind. And as you can see, according to Box Office Theory at the very least, we're expected to see some pretty low opening weekend numbers for all of the new films this weekend, and expected to see I guess I could say a decent drop-off for Predator Badlands, but not nearly as strong as it would want to be if it was going to be looking towards potential profitability. Now, of course, we do still need to actually wait for the actual numbers to come in, wait for the official estimates to come in on Sunday. And the big question, of course, is what those international numbers are going to look like for Predator Badlands, and that's going to determine whether or not the film will make money back or not. Keep in mind, right, that film did cost, again, over $100 million to make. It also probably had a marketing budget of roughly $50 million or more. Disney is notorious for overspending on their marketing budgets, but even just assuming a $50 million marketing budget, which would be standard for a film of its size, that would still be enough to where, because of the splits of domestic, international, and of course from China, where this film is also releasing, means the film needs to probably make closer to $300 million or more to actually break even. We have a running tally though, so we're actually going to be able to see in real time how much money it is still in the red, or eventually, if it breaks even, profitability, what those numbers actually will look like. And that's just based off of the theatrical run. People can try to argue, well, VOD sales eventually, and Blu-ray and 4K sales eventually, and merchandising, whatever merchandising there is for Predator these days. But all of those are other things that, again, are really not really quantifiable and are not things that we really have official numbers on, because when it comes to these massive corporations, they tend to keep a lot of those types of numbers, especially VOD sales and profit from those sales, close to the chest. And one can only imagine why that is the case. But really, again, the big story this weekend is the film The Running Man. This is, of course, I guess you could argue a remake, though technically not, as this is supposed to be an adaptation of the book that is closer to the book than the original Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger was back in the 80s. I've seen the film myself, and overall, it's fine. I gave it a rad score over on Critic List because I had a lot of fun with it. Even though I had a lot of fun with it, though, there were also some issues, especially when it came to the storytelling, how all of the things worked, all of the contrivances of especially the bad guys in it, and how much control they had over everything, and all the plans that they had that were just all perfectly matched up. It just, again, was one of those things where even in a movie, you think to yourself, yeah, you got to really suspend your disbelief for a little bit too much of the film to really buy into the legitimacy of the overall story, or at least the more complicated aspects as the story goes along. But it was still a lot of fun, and so I would still give it a rad score for that reason. But even that being the case, with as big of a film as this is, even bigger than Now You See Me, Now You Don't, as far as budget is concerned, a $14 to $19 million opening weekend, with the traditional industry actually tracking it higher at $20+ million. That's a very rough place to start for a film of that budget size. And so obviously internationals might be able to come to the rescue, but it's a much higher hill to climb if you're relying on those international numbers, because you get so much less back return on investment from international box office, right? The splits between the countries and the studios that are being released, that having films released there, is a lot more towards the country that it's going into's origin, right? Or rather, destination. So it's like 40% is what actually comes back to the studio in the average number of cases. And so, yeah, it's not looking good for it's not looking good for The Running Man. It's not looking good for Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And Predator Badlands, again, I mentioned this opening weekend that it really wasn't as good as people said, just because it overperformed based off of a very low, abysmally low estimate. does not mean then that it's good, right? It'd be one thing if the film had a high estimate and then over exceeded that. It's another when you're at the bottom of the barrel in your estimates and then you do a higher than your lower bottom of the barrel. Again, that just ultimately means as of right now, the film is still a box office loser. Right now, it seems like there's a little bit too much money that it has to make up to actually break even. But again, those internationals are going to tell the story, and so we'll have an official report on that on Sunday as far as whether or not the film will make its money back theatrically or not. But as you can see, Box Office Theory is actually projecting Predator Badlands to come in the number one spot once again. I'm sure all of the people who are shilling over this movie are going to be very excited to hear that if it holds out. $17.9 million, projecting a 55% drop. I mentioned this last weekend, right, saying, okay, well, let's look at those percentages are going to look like next weekend. And I said, we're talking like low 50s into the 40s. It could be a good sign for the film. But if it's anything higher than that, then again, probably is not a good sign at all. 55% is going to be right at that end where it's, again, internationals are going to make or break whether or not that's a good or bad sign for the actual film itself. So I would say that right now that's a decent hold, but definitely not the kind of amazing hold that a film that is getting the kind of praise that this film is getting would be expected to have. This is not seeing a Sinners type hold, for instance. This is not seeing some of the other massive and strong holds that we've seen, from other films this past year. The second place film this weekend projected by Box Office Theory to be Now You See Me, Now You Don't, from Lionsgate, $16.7 million, expected to have a tie with Running Man. So it's going to be an interesting battle between those two movies. Honestly, I can't see how a film like Running Man isn't going to be able to pull out the victory there. It is just a lot more fun. Glenn Powell's in the movie, and that is something that is going to drive, especially some of the teenage audience, even the teenage audience that probably shouldn't be seeing the film. I think that you're probably going to see a higher portion of them because they love Glenn Powell. It's just, again, something that is very, just being realistic there. So could that be a factor? Could that be an X factor maybe? That's hard to actually project because that would be walk-up traffic versus the, pre-buying, the pre-sales that sometimes these estimates rely on. It actually could obviously be that case. So interesting to see that battle between these two. But Box Office Theory, not really seeing a lot of potential in The Running Man. And if these numbers hold out with the kind of budget that this film has, it's not going to be a very good starting point unless, as I said, those internationals come in gangbusters, which again, right now, not looking like that's going to be happening, but we'll have to wait and see. Regretting You from Paramount holding well, 32%, again, several weeks out from its initial release. Black Phone 2 starting to fall off a bit, but again, it's already made its money back, so kudos to that. Sarah's Oil from Amazon, I think this is his second week, so actually a decent hold there for that film. Begonia, 27% hold. This film is holding pretty well, as an independent movie. Started off very few theaters, had a massive expansion. Again, projected to hold well. And then you have a new film from Neon called Keeper. Don't know much about that one. $2.5 million. About normal for a Neon release. Nuremberg, 38% drop there. Again, percentage-wise, not a terrible drop, but also didn't have the strongest of starts either. And then Wicked 2025 is getting re-released in anticipation of Wicked for Good. Going over to Box Office Pro, they also have an interesting dynamic going on. So they have Now You See Me, Now You Don't at 18 to 25 million. So they think that's going to take first place. Then they have The Running Man at 15 to 25 million, taking second place. And then Predator Badlands at 15 to 22 million, taking third place. So therefore, they are seeing a battle between Predator Badlands and also The Running Man, and having the Now You See Me run away with it. Again, I think when it comes to the Now You See Me franchise, I think it's way overhyped by a lot of people in like the box office space. I don't think people remember, just again, compared to if you actually break down the numbers as far as how much money it actually made versus how much money they put into it, and therefore how little return on investment they actually got. I think again, people are overhyping this a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see what those numbers actually come up to be, but I just don't know a lot of people myself, at the very least, that have been saying, oh man, I can't wait to see the third Now You See Me film. And also the kids these days don't really know much about it either. So again, that could be a major factor. And then lastly, we have Box Office Report. They think Now You See Me is going to win with $22 million. Predator Badlands with 18.5, Running Man with 18.3. So again, they're seeing a battle between those two films. And then that's pretty much going to be it for your top three at the box office. And so again, similar drop-offs though for Predator Badlands, projected across all three of those platforms. And so, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a toss-up there. Now, if we go over to The Running Man over on Critic List to see what the fans are saying, right now 12 people so far have reviewed the movie, and it's at a 65% rad score. So that's definitely, I think, a good sign early on. If the people who have seen it first, the people that were, I guess, most excited about seeing the movie or most open to seeing the film, if they're having some positive things to say, that is a good thing. Having 12 people having seen it as well means that I think, honestly, the box office is going to be a little bit better than those projections. Typically, when you have, those very low low box office numbers on critic lists, there's usually not a lot of reviews for those kinds of movies. Makes a lot of sense, right? If not a lot of people are seeing it, not a lot of people are going to be reviewing it. But again, 12 for the film just having been released last night, I think is a good sign. Again, I gave it a rad score. Right now, the average is a rad, and you've got pretty much all over the place, right? Most of the scores are rad. You do have a bogus in there, a couple of boguses, some most excellents, and again, I think rad is pretty much running the day there. And I won't be surprised if this film, when more reviews come in, stays in that rad category, because I think overall it's going to make a lot of people just happy by the fact of its entertainment value. As I said, though, it's going to be a hard and very tall hill to climb, right? $110 million budget is what's currently being reported. That is coming from Variety. And so, again, that means it needs to make roughly $300+ million just to break even using the current standards of the day. And then a similar story for Now You See Me, costing less at $90 million, but still that 3 times multiplier is the common standard these days because of where films make their money and because of how those splits work, especially in the post-COVID era. So that film also looking to be a little under $300 million as far as its break-even point. And based on these opening weekends being as low as they are, it's just not looking like that is going to happen. Now, going over to the charts, because you love Chauncey on OMB Reviews, just for some updates, we have seen Predator Badlands reach $90 million, and so this film is going to reach over $100 million by the end of this weekend, probably actually even over the next day or two, coming in over $100 million. And so I guess in that way you could say it's a victory, but all comes down to profits. It all comes down to, does your film even make its money back? And based off of the numbers that we're seeing right now, the fact that we have new films coming out, taking up some space in the market, and we obviously have even more films coming up over the next couple of weeks, I don't think Predator Badlands is going to be able to have the type of staying power, especially because it's not as good as people are trying to claim it to be. And I know there's an active debate amongst fans about the film, but again, the numbers don't lie, and the numbers are what they are. And again, we'll have some official projections on what these numbers mean on Sunday. And so I'll be able to give you a pretty good idea about the historical reality of where this film is. But I did mention this last weekend that if this film had not reached or does not reach like $150, $160 million at the box office by the end of this weekend, that it will likely not break even. Just again, based off of the historical standard of where things are. I broke this down in my live stream this past Monday. So I do recommend that you check that out just to get an idea about what we can expect the film to make, and also why that number is so important. And really not a whole lot of other updates for the other box office things out there, right? Shelby Oaks, again, is going to probably end with some profitability at some point, right? The differential there is kind of all over the place, and also we don't really have official budgets marketing for a film of that size. Like single-digit marketing or single-digit budgets are much harder to project as far as what your actual marketing costs are. And of course, all these other films on the list too. But anyway, those are my thoughts on what's coming out this weekend. What are y'all's thoughts? Do you have any plans to see these new releases? Do you plan to see Now You See Me, number 3, or Running Man, or any of these other films? Again, I think Running Man overall is a good time. Not necessarily something that you have to go out of your way to see, but it's an Edgar Wright film that doesn't feel as much like an Edgar Wright film. Edgar Wright is much better, I think, when it comes to the more clear-cut, entertaining, and comedy level films. And this film is much more of an action sci-fi fantasy. So again, he does a fine job with it for what it is, but definitely not his wheelhouse. And so it's got some issues, especially story-wise down the line, with a little bit too many contrivances. If it was in a comedy, it would have made a lot more sense, because you can, in comedies, get away with things not making sense or things being contrived, right? It's part of the comedic, part of the comedic aspects of it, right? In a drama, or at the very least in this action style fantasy, you typically need it to be a little bit more grounded, to have it make more sense for the audience to actually buy into it. And I just don't think it really did enough in that regard. And again, could be blamed on the book, could be obviously blamed on the adaptation. I've not read the book myself, and so I can't speak to whether or not it's just following the book or not, but definitely, again, comes across, at least in the film, as a bit contrived. But let me know your thoughts about that, or anything else I mentioned, in the comment section down below. If you like this video, make sure you smash that like button, smash the rumble button as well. You guys are all amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed Friday. And as always, God bless. And now let me give a shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my Patreon members, Father Luca Illick, hail to you, Father, and also to Miss Mountain Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Mountain Muses. She is very lovely, great, awesome Catholic faith-based content over there. You'll also find over on Subscribestar my member Matt317. He is on Twitch with the same channel name, Matt317. Shout out to you, good sir. And also to a longtime member here, Mr. Roy, my Chosen of Valhalla member here on YouTube. Mr. Roy, thank you for always hanging out and for always being a part of this channel. It does mean a lot, as well as it does for all of my Chosen of Valhalla members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream or video, or if you want it listed in that list that was playing just before, just now, check out the top link in the video description below. You'll find out how to get those types of shoutouts at the end of every live stream and video. Not to mention, you get access to bonus video content and also access to a Discord server where there are a couple of channels on there where I do giveaways every single month. In fact, I do multiple giveaways every single month. I try to make it so that I'm giving away Blu-rays and 4Ks that make up at least 4 or 5 different giveaways. Sometimes I have to put them in all towards the very end because back in the school session, of course, now means that I'm going to be a little bit more delayed there. So if you want access to things like that, if you want access to a great community, you guys seriously are all amazing and beautiful. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.